Things I don't miss about living in the Caribbean anymore. Number one, losing electricity 2 or 3 times a week. Now, I lived in St. Kitts where electricity is worse than many of the islands, but not as bad as some. And it's unusual, and even now I'm still in the community group for our area, and we're still losing electricity 2 to 3 times a week. In fact, just a day or two ago, they smelled smoke at the power station again, and the whole island was without electricity while they investigated. And about 10 years ago, they blew up a generator, and we were without power like 6 hours a day for 4 or 5 months until they brought in generators. Electricity is extremely unreliable. It's very expensive. Even though that air conditioners, out of dryer, our electricity bill is around $500 per month for a house. Yes, $500 a month. Now, of course, it's not going to be as cheap as Russia, where I pay around $30 a month. But it's also very unstable. They have a modern-ish generation station, but the grid is very ancient. It's like 1960s technology. They still turn it on and off using fiberglass poles. So when one of the circuits goes out, sometimes they don't even know where it is, and they have to go out with trucks and cell phones and just start flipping stuff on to see what blows again. The voltage is highly irregular. Sometimes we get half voltage, sometimes we get double voltage. People lose thousands of dollars in electronics and appliances every year. And on the islands, the tax and the duties are very high on things. So for example, on refrigerators, we pay 60% tax plus shipping. So a refrigerator in the island can easily cost double what it does in the US. So when it gets blown up, it's kind of an expensive proposition. It's also very expensive to keep generators running and keep them maintained and so forth. So electricity, absolutely don't miss it. So I've been here in Russia, close to a year and a half now. We've never lost electricity once. The only time we've been without electricity was when we had a minor electrical short inside of our apartment itself. We turned off that one circuit. But from the mains, it's been perfectly stable. Never lost electricity. When I lived here 20 years ago, it was the same way. When I lived in Turkey, we'd lose it for a short time every 2 or 3 months, but it was still kind of acceptable. It was a little unstable, but it never blew anything up. I've lived in about 12 countries, and in the Caribbean, electricity, short of going to like Africa or something like that, you're not going to find many places with worse electricity than the Caribbean. And it's all about politics. Now, different islands have different reasons, but in St. Kitts, I can easily tell you it's the politics. The technicians generally know what they're doing. Okay, the technicians at Skelec, which is a St. Kitts electric company, the technicians are pretty good, but the management, utterly incompetent, usually appointed by politicians. Many of them have no clue about how electricity works. One time, our whole grid went off, and they said they're going to turn it back on. They didn't turn it back on, and it was, a big problem. And I drove out to the power station late at night, and because they say, we don't work at night because it's too dangerous. But when it goes out in a political area like Bird Rock, they have lights. They have lights, turn it back on. And so I went out there to try and find the manager of the night. And they're like, he's gone. He's done gone for the night. Like, where isn't he on duty? Yeah, he on duty. But he girlfriend come and they go down to the strip, which is, the beach bars. So he's supposed to be on duty, but his girlfriend came. So he left the power station to go down and drink. That stuff happens. And it doesn't matter what administration. We've had 4 different major administrations in St. Kitts, 4 different prime ministers. And it doesn't matter who you appoint, the electricity situation never gets better. And it's a major problem for the infrastructure on the island because they wonder why they don't have businesses. It's hard to run heavy industry when your electricity is super expensive. It's even worse when you have to pay for these big, huge generators. And then you have the electricity company blowing up your electronics and appliances. So they want to bring in more and more people, but it's hard to get beyond tourism just because it's so difficult. The Marriott, which is the biggest hotel in St. Kitts, runs full time on its own generator. Now, part of the reason was they said when they built it, if they connected to the electric grid, that they would be able to handle it. But that's only partially true. One of the biggest reasons was the Marriott didn't want the instability. So they have their own power generation station there at the Marriott, which runs full time on diesel. Yes, full time electric generation for the Marriott. Now, don't get me wrong. I love St. Kitts. But as usual, the politics that goof things up. And this is the number one hindrance to the economic development of St. Kitts is the infrastructure. We'll talk about the roads and the water and the other things some other time. But if you're planning on moving down to the islands, you've read a book or whatever, first of all, I would recommend you read a book called Don't Stop the Carnival, which is absolutely hilarious. The first third is really slow. And it does have some characters from Nevis, which is part of St. Kitts and Nevis. And it's not written about St. Kitts, but it's written about a lot of these small tropical islands. And once you read this book, yeah, he funny. You'll start to understand these places are great paradises to go visit, but to live there, it's a whole different ball of wax.